Right, before we jump into the book review, I just want to say something regarding the Netflix show. Do you remember how in my review for the Netflix show I said that the music wasn't very memorable? Yeah, I take that all back because I listened to the soundtrack on Spotify, like, a lot, on repeat, 24/7. Yeah, the soundtrack for the show is amazing. The main theme... Oof. Her Sweet Kiss? Toss a coin to your Witcher? The Song of the White Wolf? Every time you leave? Oh, I'm in love. I'm in love. Right, The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski, the first book in the Witcher series. I really like this book. I did. It's a good book. I found that the more I read the book, the more I just started to realize, yeah, I'm actually becoming a big fan of The Witcher. Like, I love the Netflix show, and, like, I even went and got, like, a little Witcher necklace because, like, I love it. It's so cool. Like, I know the Witcher 3 one everyone thinks is cooler and stuff, but I kind of like the one from the Netflix show, especially since now that I've read the book and I realize that it's more book accurate. I'm a sucker for accuracy, okay? So reading the book and then going back and watching some of the episodes of the show just made me realize how well the show adapted the book. Do I need to do a spoiler warning for the TV show and the books? Well, I guess so. If that's the case, then here's your spoiler warning. If you haven't read the book and you want to read the book, or if you haven't seen the show and you want to see the show, now's your time to leave. But please come back. I need more subscribers. I need more views, please. But with that all being said, I say we just review each short story, because this is just a collection of short stories that Sapkowski wrote before, you know, anyone would actually go and publish his actual main story. So, yeah, short story by short story, I guess. So the first short story is one that I recognized immediately from the show, which is the Strega storyline. But it's so different, but it's also the same. That's kind of the weird thing about the book. It's that when reading it, I recognized so much stuff from the show, but I also just went, oh, this is so different. I mean, essentially the story is the same. Geralt goes to this town in hunt for work. He finds out that there's a Strega there. He goes to King Foltest and finds out that he's been fornicating with his sister, and the child, aka the Strega, it was a product of incest. Geralt prepares to fight the Strega. He fights the Strega. He hides in the coffin till morning, and then, you know, the Strega turns back into a girl, but she's still kind of animalistic and bites his neck, and Geralt almost dies. But he doesn't die because he's a Witcher, and he slowed his pulse down, and yeah, that stuff's really cool. I will say one difference that didn't really bother me was the fact that Triss isn't in this story in the book. I mean, in the show it works because obviously Triss is there to help Geralt figure out who the Strega is, and it's cool, but in the book, Geralt kind of just shows up and the, like, main warden guy just tells him everything, so I didn't mind that. Now that leads me on to my biggest issue with this book, which is that it's very expositional in terms of the writing style. Now, obviously, I am reading an English translation of a Polish text, but the way scenes are structured, it's like Geralt sits down with someone and they have a conversation for a bit, and that person will just deliver a bunch of exposition for Geralt to figure out what he needs to figure out, and then Geralt leaves, he fights a monster, the story ends. But that being said, it doesn't ruin my enjoyment of the book. The book is still really good, and this short story is just great. It was one of my favorites in the show, and seeing it in the book being basically the same thing was just really cool. Especially since I'm a sucker for accuracy. Like, if I read something in a book and I see it translated accurately into like a movie or a TV show, I just get so happy. Same thing with my comic books. If I see a comic book costume and I see it translated so faithfully onto the big screen, I get excited. I'm just a sucker for references and Easter eggs and faithfulness to the source material. So the fact that both this book and the show are so similar, it just gets me excited. It gets me giddy. But yeah, the first short story, The Witcher, pretty great. Loved it.
But the story is this, she'll destroy with a sweet kiss, oh. But the story is this, she'll destroy with a sweet kiss.
So The Greater True Story is basically just a warped version of Beauty and the Beast, and I kind of loved it. Like, I was reading it, and for the most part, it is just a massive conversation scene between Geralt and Nivellen, but just... I loved it, and I love Nivellen. Nivellen is so cool. The fact that he's just Beast from Beauty and the Beast is just really cool, and I like that this story is just a warped version of Beauty and the Beast. You know, instead of falling in love and being transformed back into a human, him falling in love didn't do anything, and the fact that he falls in love with a vampire of all things is really cool, and the fact that once he and Geralt kill the Bruxer, the vampire, and he transforms back into a human person, basically doing the Beauty and the Beast thing, but instead of, you know, falling in love, it's killing your true love that turns you back into a human. I loved that. That was just really cool. Now, the fact that they're going to adapt this story in season 2 of The Witcher is just really exciting, especially since they got the guy who played Tormund from Game of Thrones to play Nivellen. That's just going to be amazing. Although my big concern is I wonder how they're actually going to fit this into an episode, because it is just a massive conversation scene between Geralt and Nivellen. Now, I am a little bit concerned because I really hope that with this short story in season 2, they don't do what they did to the Edge of the World short story in season 1, where they basically simplified it to the point where it became uninteresting. I'll get back onto that in a second, but just I really hope they don't butcher this story. I really liked it. I really hope that with Nivellen they do him kind of practically. Like, I'd love to see it, you know, like they make him look like Beast from Beauty and the Beast. That'd just be really cool. I really like this short story.
Toss a coin to your Witcher, oh Valley of Plenty, oh Valley of Plenty, oh.
The Lesser Evil. The Lesser Evil. Again, it's basically just episode 1 of season 1 of The Witcher, and it's so good. I loved it. This is actually one of the short stories where, when I was reading it, I went, oh, the show kind of messed up this story a little bit. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, I'm just saying in terms of just logistics, the book does it better. Like, my biggest example is when Geralt meets Renfri. In the show, they're just in the same tavern, Geralt then goes to Strega and Strega's all just like, kill Renfri. And then Geralt goes off into the woods, and then Renfri is magically in the woods, and then they talk for a bit, and then they bang in the woods, and then all of a sudden Geralt's just like, oh no, she's gonna go kill Strega in the marketplace. And then obviously there's the big action scene in the marketplace, Geralt kills Renfri, and then Strega comes down from the tower and he's all just like, oh, you interfered when you said you wouldn't interfere, get out of here. And that was just kind of confusing in the show because it made it seem like Strega was like running the town. But in the book, it's just so much more simpler and so much more effective. Like, in the book, Geralt's just staying with the alderman of the town, so Renfri sneaks into his room, and then they have that massive conversation, and then she seduces him, and then he realizes, oh no, she's tricked me, she's gone to the marketplace. And then when Geralt does the big fight scene, and the alderman comes running in, and Geralt's just like, don't touch Renfri, and the alderman's just like, Geralt, get the hell out of here, you said you wouldn't interfere after I told you not to. It just made so much more sense, and I was kind of just like, oh, I kind of wish the show did it like this because it just makes so much more sense. But that being said, I love this short story. And the fact that the show just represents it so accurately, it's just insane. Like, the fight scene in episode 1 of The Witcher is basically the fight scene in the book, and I love that. Even the bit where a guy shoots Geralt with a crossbow and then Geralt blocks the bolt in midair is in the book, and I was just like, oh my god, they adapted that. That is just amazing. I'm just a sucker for this kind of thing, you know? I love little callbacks and references from book to screen adaptations. I love it. I just love accuracy as much as Jaskier loves Geralt, okay?
Oh fishmonger, come quell your daughter's hunger.
So the question of price short story is, again, like episode 4 of the show. It's basically the same thing. There are minor differences, but other than that, they are just the same story. You know, Geralt attends Pavetta's engagement party, Duny comes in, Duny explains that he technically owns Pavetta because of the law surprise, all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing. Pavetta does her weird ungodly screaming thing, and everyone's all just like, oh my god, what the hell was that? And you know, Geralt basically saves Duny's life, and then Duny's all just like, oh, I give you the law surprise, and Geralt's just like, alright, cool. I will say, I do prefer the show version where Geralt does it as kind of like a throwaway joke, and then we find out that Pavetta's actually pregnant, because in the book, it's kind of just like, oh, they find out Pavetta's pregnant, Geralt's just like, hey yo, give me the law surprise, because like, we need more witches about, and I'm like, I don't like that. I mean, it comes across as Geralt selfishly kidnapping a child and taking them away from their parents just to train them to become a witcher because there aren't many witches left. Like, I don't like that. That was just kind of weird. But I do prefer how the book actually makes Geralt kind of relevant in this story, because in the show it's kind of just like Jaskier drags him along to protect him, and then all of a sudden Queen Calanthe's just like, oh look, it's Geralt of Rivia, a witcher. Hey, come sit next to me. And then Duny comes and she was all just like, yeah, go kill him. And he's just like, no. I kind of prefer how in the book he's hired as like a mercenary, but Geralt sticks to his code and basically says, no, I'm not going to be a mercenary for you. And the dialogue and exchanges he and Queen Calanthe have are amazing in the book, and I kind of wish that we got a little bit more in the show, because their wit and their charm and their back and forth banter was just top notch, and I wish we got more because it was really good in the book. But other than that, yeah, good short story. They're all good short stories.
At the edge of the world, we fight the mighty horde that bashes and breaks you and brings you to mourn.
Okay, so the Edge of the World short story is my least favorite in this book. It's not that it's terrible, it's just a little bit weak. It's still an enjoyable read, but after reading it, I kind of just went, yeah, I understand why now episode 2 of season 1 of The Witcher wasn't as good as it should have been. Because essentially, it's just Geralt and Dandelion walking into this village. They're just like, oh, hey, can you get rid of this Sylvan for us? And Geralt's just like, yeah, okay, give me some money. And they're like, okay, cool. So he goes and tries to kill the Sylvan, and then they get kidnapped by elves, and then the elves beat them up for a bit, and then that's kind of it. I mean, obviously the elves let them go and all that stuff. You know, you've seen the episode, you've read the short story. But I will say the book version is a lot more interesting than the one in the show, because obviously Geralt and Jaskier, they go to the alderman of the town who is kind of dumb, and he kind of goes on about how, like, there's like a specific book and a specific spell that can be read by the specific person that we find out is an elf later on, and just the way they were talking about it, like how they had to read specific runes and stuff, it was a lot more interesting, although it was a bit more long-winded, because it was just like they had to go to this person, then find this lady, and then they had to read the runes, and then they had to go fight the Sylvan, and then they get kidnapped by elves. Overall, I just think that this short story is just a bit weak, because on one hand, you got the book version, which is slightly longer, slightly more interesting with all the elven stuff, and the runes, and the magic, and the oracle, but then on the other hand, you got the show one, which is just much shorter, much more snappy, but also just less interesting, so I guess you could say it's the lesser of two evils, or something? I don't know, I was trying to make a Witcher pun, I'm sorry. So The Last Wish is again, basically the short story you see in the show. Geralt and Jaskier are fishing, they find a genie bottle, they open it, the genie attacks Jaskier, Geralt then goes and finds an elven healer who's just like, oh, nope, he needs magic, and so he goes and finds Yennefer, who has basically taken over the town of Rind, and is basically controlling the mayor, and everyone loves her. She has a bath with Geralt, she cures Jaskier, and then she brainwashes Geralt to kill a bunch of people, and then Geralt's kind of just like, hey, yo, why'd you do that for? And then she's just like, because I want your wish, and he's just like, hey, yo, no. And then we find out that Geralt's the one with all the wishes, and Yennefer has Jaskier, and then Geralt goes and saves Jaskier, and then Yennefer wants to get the djinn, but obviously she can't because it will kill her, and then Geralt's all just like, Yennefer, stop this, and she's all just like, no, I want more. It's basically the same thing. Although that being said, the climax of this short story is a lot cooler in the book because there's a lot of like teleportation and like magic and like force fields and sparks and stuff. It's really cool, and I feel like we kind of got a little bit robbed in the show because in the show it's kind of just like Geralt's just like, Yennefer, damn it, tell me what you want, and she's all just like, I want everything, and then Geralt's all just like, Yennefer, I wish that you and I are closely bonded together, and then like the genie just like disappears. But that being said, The Last Wish is actually a lot more clearer in the book than it is in the show. Like in the show I was still kind of just like, wait, what was Geralt's last wish? Now I realize now is that he and Yennefer are closely linked together by destiny, so they're like meant to be together, which is really cool, and I like it. I just wish it was made a little bit more clear in the show. Yeah, I'm just gonna sound like a broken record. It's a good short story, it's a good read, it's fun, this book is really interesting.
For the song of the white wolf will always sing alone.
Okay, so the reason why I'm talking about the Voice of Reason last is because essentially they're just little chapters that separate the short stories, and they link them together, sort of. I say this because you'll occasionally get a Voice of Reason chapter that will mention a character, for example, Dandelion, or Jaskier, whichever you prefer. I prefer Jaskier, so I'll refer to him as Jaskier. But they'll mention Jaskier, and he'll then show up in the next short story. Until you get to the last one, which is essentially just Geralt fighting a knight, which is a really cool short story, and I really hope that we get this Voice of Reason stuff adapted in a future season. I mean, I don't know how, since all of this is taking place after Geralt has fought the Strega, and this is him recovering from it, but just, I really want to see the stuff from the Voice of Reason chapters, because I love Neneke, she's awesome. The Iola stuff was interesting, especially at the end when she touches Geralt's arm and she just collapses and has a seizure. Like, that was interesting, and I hope that's building up to something. I have no idea, but like, that was really cool. But most importantly, I want to see Geralt fight that knight, because the way it's written, it's just so cool. Like, the knights who are forcing him to fight this other knight are just being pricks to him, and I love Geralt, because Geralt is just so, like, clever and witty, but he's also just got, like, that deadpan expression. I love Geralt. And I think this would just be an amazing thing for Henry Cavill to perform, because, like, Henry Cavill's an amazing Geralt, and just, I want to see this short story, especially when Geralt beats the guy by not even touching him. Like, he gets the own guy to impale himself in his own sword. Like, that's just really cool. But yeah, that's kind of all I've got to say on this book, really. It's a good book. I recommend it. If you're a fan of the TV show, then read the book. If you're a fan of the books, watch the TV show. Just, it's really good. I'm enjoying The Witcher so far, and I'm just enjoying, like, learning about the world of The Witcher. Still need to play The Witcher 3, but just, yeah, I'm just becoming a little Witcher fan. Look at me. I've got my necklace, I've got my books, got Sword of Destiny on the desk over there. But yeah, that is what I think of The Last Wish. Have you guys read the book? Let me know in the comments down below. Have you watched the show? Let me know too. Have you seen my review of the show? Go watch it. But with all that being said, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell down there. My social media links are also down in the description, so if you give them a look and a follow, that'd be very nice. I have a second channel where I make short films, so if you give those a look, that'd be very much appreciated. And until we meet again, I'll see you guys next time.